In this video, we're going to be building an AI customer support bot. So what we're going to try and do here is we're obviously going to be using Cursor. And what we're going to do is we're going to try and build an intercom clone. So if you're not familiar with intercom, it's basically that little thing that gets injected at the bottom right that pops up a chat pane. So let's actually just jump into Cursor and show you what I mean here. So let's just say, I need you to build me the basic UI for an intercom clone. So all we want right now is kind of in the bottom right to have the chat button that we can toggle that when clicked opens up the kind of the little chat area. Okay, so what Composer is going to do here is we're actually going to have it generate our kind of little area or button down here that when we click on it, it'll actually open up what we need to use for the AI chat. So you can see it did a bunch of work here. One thing I actually do want to change here, we're going to accept this. Give me one sec here. It actually made a new components folder. We just want to use the existing one. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move that. I could probably tweak that with my cursor rules. And let's go ahead and go back to our app and see what's going on here. So you can see it built all the components that I need, but it didn't actually put that in the app. So what I actually need to do is, I actually need to jump back into Composer here. And I just need to say, okay, we need to put the intercom clone into our actual app. So it's in the bottom right of our screen. And this should go, my assumption will probably go into the layout. Yeah, it's going to go into layout here, and it's going to add that right into here, which makes perfect sense. So now if we go back to our app, let's see, we're getting use state errors. So this is a really common thing. Cursor tab even gets this. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm just going to need to add this to the top of each of these files that got generated. Which is something, again, I could go tweak my cursor rules, but you can see that we're actually getting that component here. So when I click this, it looks like it doesn't want to be, okay, so there's a slight like click area bug on this where if I click outside the icon, it works. So we would probably want to change that. But let's go ahead and just try and get this working a little bit more. So what I can do is say, I need the ability to actually type my input into the chat area, just like the actual intercom product would handle. So let's make sure we get that working. Okay, because we need a little bit of an input here with a button so that we can actually obviously trigger a chat without being able to do that. That is not going to do us much good. So let's go ahead and see what it cooks up for us here. You can see it's writing all of this code. So we're going to go ahead and hit accept there from Composer. Oh, and it even fixed that bug. That's right. Okay, so now if I send hi, hit send, it's not going to do anything yet because I haven't actually hooked it up. So what we want to do is we want to go to the OpenAI API here. We're going to be using function calling. So let's just go ahead and grab this from the get-go. I'm just going to copy this code. And what we can do now is pass this code to Composer here as an example. And watch this. We need a new OpenAI actions file that should use function calling. So the use case that we're going to be kind of trying to build here is the actual customer support agent is going to be an AI model. And what we want to do is we actually want to leverage the function calling abilities of the model. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a function that effectively just decides whether or not the issue is kind of resolved or not. So we want to basically have the chat go on as normal, and then once basically if the chat's not resolved, the chat should continue. If the chat is resolved, you should probably just say thank you for, thank you, have a nice day, or something like a nice closing message. So this is going to use my TTS tool here, inject that, and you'll see I basically just kind of rambled, that was very stream of consciousness-y, and the AI is going to take my jumbled dots there, and it's actually going to sort of cohesively go ahead and write all these files. So let's jump into command view here, and you can see we're getting that OpenAI actions folder or file here, and it's going to write all of the code that I need. You can see it took that code example and it actually built out a correct function here, which is super cool. So let's go ahead and just accept that because it should go ahead and inject that right into the app. So what we can do is we can actually go test it out. So it looks like the OpenAI API key is missing. Oh, you know what I bet this is? So this just needs to have a use server. This is just like we did use client and some of those other things, we actually need to do use server, and this will correctly inject my API key in there, which is awesome. And now if I say, let's say I'm getting a bug, and let's just see if the AI can actually respond back to us. Okay, cool. So we see, I'm sorry to hear that you're experiencing a bug. And let's just say the screen keeps flashing. Again, this is like totally made up, but we're just trying to simulate. So let me actually jump into the code here really quick here just to kind of explain what's going on. So what we're doing is we're actually making an API call to the OpenAI API here with, oh, you know what? We actually want to use GPT-4o. Interestingly, this should actually, oh, this is just a type error. We can ignore that for now. But what we're doing here is we're basically creating a function here. So this is function calling. So a lot of you have probably heard of like AI agents. Function calling is kind of one of the core ways to actually build AI agents. So in this case, we're basically building a customer support AI agent here. And the way it's working is it's having a normal conversation, and it's basically just trying to check if the conversation is resolved or not, and the reason for the decision, which is really cool. And again, we were able to just get that by copying and pasting code from the OpenAI doc, so we didn't even have to kind of go scaffold that out by ourselves. So let's just say it looks like that worked. And I'm hoping that the AI should basically be able to recognize like, okay, no, I'm good. So you can see like this closing message is a little off. So we'd probably want to resolve that. I'm going to kind of skip over that just because I think you probably get the gist here. So let's actually get into some of the more interesting things here, which is we want these messages to actually persist to the database here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, let's close all these files for now. And what we want to do is you'll see in my template here that I have, I can't remember if I mentioned this or not. I'll cut this out if I already mentioned this, but I have this McKay's app template. This is usually where I start these projects from, and it has kind of all the full stack stuff you need here. So that's what the code that you're seeing here is just from that template. And so I already have this profile schema. So what I want to do here is I just want to say, let's think here. Let's just go. Okay, so everything appears to be working. What I actually need now is I need to work on the ability to persist the data to the database. So you're going to go ahead and need to create whatever schemas you need for the messages or the chats or whatever. So go create those in the DB schema area. And once you have those done, you'll also need to write the queries in the queries folder, and you'll also need to create new actions for those. So go handle everything I need on the back end here to actually get this working in a way where we'll have persistent data. And what's cool about this is because my template here has like the profile queries and the profile schema all set up, it should just be able to kind of infer from the style of the code that I already have in my project what I need. So you'll see we got this entire chat schema with chats and a messages table, which is pretty cool here. So what we can do now is let's actually go into the command mode here. And you'll see, look, it's writing all of the queries that we need for chats. It's writing the actions that we need to call that in our app. It's kind of taking care of integrating some of those things from the back end. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and go back to the small view. We're going to accept all. And the way that this works, okay, so it actually looks like we're getting a little bit of a couple bugs here. So let's go ahead and get those resolved. And then we should be able, so it looks like the main one is just going to be this chat actions. So let's go ahead and click this button. Let's see what cursor can do for us. So this is an interesting use case here because what's basically happening here is that you need up-to-date information from the library. I happen to know what that error is, but this is kind of the case for why you should be building out prompt files, because I would theoretically here have a clerk prompt file that would sort of provide context on the most relevant tools for that library. And so you'll see that that error message has kind of gone away. All this stuff is just type errors, so I'm going to kind of skip over it for now. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to jump into my terminal. I'm going to go npm run db migrate. Or actually, we need to generate. This is going to generate a new schema for us. So if we actually go into our migrations folder, you should see hopefully, oh, you know what we actually need to do? This is funny. So there's an export here. So we just need to actually export the chat schema. And then if we run that command again, this will actually generate that table. We'll get a new migration file. And what we can do is do npm run db migrate. And this is going to migrate everything to my Supabase project, like I showed you. Or I didn't show you this, but if we go back over to this table editor now, we have the correct tables created in our project. So what we should be able to do is, let's just go into the actions really quick. And what we need to do is, actually, I'm going to just go search for this and see. Okay, so it looks like we're not actually hooking it up yet. So let's go ask for that. Make sure that you hook up the actions that you created to the actual UI to make sure that everything is properly hooked up on the front end and the back end. So if we just let Cursor Composer know what we need here, it should go and verify that it has hooked up every single thing we need here. So you can see in this intercom clone, it's going to start building out the different loaders here for the chats and things like that. So we'll have to see what it does on the UI side of things, because for practical reasons, we don't really need to like go back into old chats. And it looks like everything is probably okay. So let's go ahead and start a new chat. Okay, it's actually giving us a list of chats. So this UI is starting to get a little nasty here. You can see we're getting an error. So let's actually you can see we're getting a Postgres error. So what we can do is we can just, again, when we're debugging these, you can just grab those error messages and just pass it off to the AI, whether you're working in Composer or working in chat. And it's actually going to be able to handle a lot of those nasty things for you. So again, we can kind of jump into the bigger view here and see what's going on here. You can see we're getting a nice little summary from the model here. And we're just going to go ahead and accept that. Let's go try that again and see if it fixes. So it looks like we had some sort of like a null ID error. So I'm just going to go ahead and say hi. You can see it is actually persisting chats, which is kind of cool. So like if we jump into our database here, we should actually see these two chats. It looks like it's having an issue. Again, I'm going to open up my developer tools and see if we can get, so there's some sort of a null value. So let's just go ahead and say, let's pass that error message in and see if we get any more fixes here. Guys, like there are ways I could do this a lot more quickly because I am a developer, but I'm trying to sort of copy a workflow that you would go through if you were a little bit less technical. So some of you, if you have questions about that, that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to show you how to do as much of this in Cursor as possible. So we're getting like our chat history there, but obviously, let's hit new chat. We're obviously not, okay, so now we're actually getting the persisted chats there. So theoretically, if I refresh this and jump in here and click on this chat, you would think that I would probably be able to see that. Okay, so you can see at the very bottom here, that's the most recent chat. I'd probably want to ask it to flip the order, but you can see now I can jump back and forth between old issues. So what we want to do next is we actually want to hook this up to the Slack API. So what we need to do first is we need to basically say, we need to edit this action a little bit, this function call. So let's jump into this file. And just to show you a different workflow instead of Composer, I'm going to use Command L and jump into chat because we're only going to work in one file here. And this is what I'm going to do here. So we need to adjust the function just slightly. The workflow here is you need to continue to check if the issue is resolved or not. And what we're effectively going to be doing is we have 3 Slack channels. We have one for bugs, one for features, and one for billing issues. What you need to do is basically figure out which, based on kind of the chat from the customer, you need to triage which issue fits into which channel and kind of classify those. And once you've classified those, you need to kind of keep track of it from the function call, because what we're going to do is we're going to pull kind of a summary of the issue and whatever the category the issue is from, and we're going to kind of route it to, we're going to send that off to the appropriate Slack channel. And guys, you don't have to be using a text-to-speech tool. I'm just using it because, especially for this video, it's would be really long for me to type this stuff. So you can see it's now adding a new parameter to our function call that's bug, feature, or billing, and it actually categorizes the issue, which is pretty cool. So we can hit this apply button, hit accept, and that's going to apply all those code changes to that file. So you can see we have that ready to roll right here. And so now what we can actually do is we can actually ask it to start working in Cursor Composer to build out the Slack stuff. So one cool trick you can do is if you click on your text input here and you hit Command I, this is going to inject this chat into a Composer instance, which is really nice. So what I can do now is I can say, okay, what we need to do now is we actually need to hook this up to my Slack. You should have, if you look into the example environment variables file, you can kind of see what envs you have access to. So go ahead and start working on that integration. Basically, we want to, once the category, once the issue is resolved, we want to go report that to Slack. And so you should have everything you need for that. All right, so let's see if Composer, this is kind of like the last part of this little mini project here. So we just want to see if Composer can handle this. I think so far this is going really well. Obviously, there's a bunch of things that we could tweak and improve here, but because I'm just kind of doing a little bit of a demo here, we're going to keep things pretty simple. So it looks like we have an actual package we need to install. So let's go ahead and just hit accept all really quick. And what we're going to do is we're going to install this. If we jump back into our chat here, you're going to see I actually need a few of these envs here. So what I might go do really quick, because this isn't a code step and I don't want to expose probably my variables here, I'm just going to cut from this video really quickly to go grab those values that it's asking me for, and I'll be right back. Okay guys, I'm back. I just asked it to use these handful of environment variables instead. It looks like I actually have to install this package here. So what I'm going to do really quick, I'm going to install that, and then if we go into our code here, you can see it's actually creating all of the Slack code that we need in that OpenAI file. So let's go ahead and accept that, and if I jump into this OpenAI actions file, we can kind of look at what it is actually doing here. So it looks like what it's going to do now, it's going to wait for the function call back from the assistant, and then it's going to actually send these messages. So theoretically, this should work. I haven't tried this yet. So let's open up this customer support thing and see what we get here. Let's just say I have a bug. The screen is blank. Sorry, I know the UI for this is kind of meh right now. I don't really want to focus on that in this particular video. My guess is that it's generating the image in the background here. Okay, you know what? We actually might want to clean up that UI. Let's actually go clean it up. So we want to go into this chat area component here. And what we're going to do is we're just going to say, let's actually go. So what we can do here, this is kind of my workflow for this, is what I would do is I'm going to close all these. And what we can do is we just reset this Composer instance. I'm going to tag the intercom clone. I'm going to tag the chat area. I'm going to tag the chat input, and I'm going to tag that chat, is it chat button as well. So we kind of have all of the components we were working with for the UI, and we're going to say, hey, so we need some pretty big UI overhauls here. Everything's like super squished, so maybe make the chat a little bit bigger, make sure that messages aren't like overflowing outside of the box. Just really try and clean things up because it's a little rough right now. And so what we can do is we can actually send this off and get a much more improved user interface here, because like I said in the request here, it's looking a little rough. So hopefully we're gonna get a pretty big little change here. You can see it's working on several of these. It's even doing a little scroll area for us, which is kind of nice. So what we can do is go to our Composer and hit accept all. And if we jump back over to our code, okay, so at least this is like scrollable now, which is nice. You can see we're getting a little bit of an issue here because you can actually see in the code, we're actually getting kind of like the actual JSON showing from the in the chat, which we don't want. So let's go ahead. What we're going to do is we're just going to grab this whole response, jump into the OpenAI file here, if I could type. And what we'll do here is we'll do a chat because we're going to be working in one file. So it looks like you're also exposing the function call to the user. What we want to do is we just want to show your actual human readable text to the user, but keep the function call hidden from the UI. We just want to have that for our purposes of deciding how to steer the chat and when to actually report things to the to the system and kind of send those Slack messages off. So what this should do is hopefully allow us to clean up some of the code here so that we don't expose that entire function call to the user here, which should help us quite a bit. So let's do the apply here. We're going to accept that and hit save. And you can see it's actually returning. We're not returning that data anymore. So this should hopefully be cleaned up. That won't show in that chat. We need to do a new one. I didn't get my invoice. Can you send it? Let's go ahead and see what we get here. Let's just say my email is McKay at mysite.com. We're going to send that again. Like, one of the things we would want to ask it to do is like show the messages as they stream in, as we send them. Right now, that's obviously not happening. It's having to wait for the entire thing. So that's kind of a little bit of an unideal user interface. But again, you can just work with Cursor Composer and Cursor, all the different cursor features here. And I'm just going to say it looks like I got it, because we're just trying to sort of trigger the customer support bot here to think that the session is resolved. And we actually want to test if that Slack integration works. So let's go ahead and see if we can actually get that working. So it looks like we're getting an error here, which looks like we're getting invalid auth here. So let's go ahead and paste that error into Composer here. And what's likely is that we're just using the Slack API incorrectly. And typically, Cursor is going to be able to handle that. So let's go ahead. Oh, you know what? I should probably say, hey, I'm getting this error on the Slack integration side of things. Can you fix this? I want to make sure we're actually giving it some instructions. Oh, you know what we need to do? We need to tag. Let's do this. Let's tag the. We're actually going to do a completely new Composer instance here. What we're going to do is we're going to go Command I with the OpenAI actions attached as context here. Please fix the Slack integration. And what this should do for us is it should fix our Slack issue here. So it looks like it still really wants this bot token. So what I might need to do, I might just have a misunderstanding of how this API works. So what I might need to do is I might just need to go get a bot token. So let me go grab that from Slack and I'll be right back. Okay guys, I was able to add that Slack bot token. I just got that from the Slack API page, so I didn't write any new code here. So let's go ahead and try this and just say, please cancel my sub. And ideally, this should give us, let's just kind of say, actually that worked, thanks. And we're just going to kind of trick it into thinking that the chat is done here. Okay, it looks like we're still getting an issue. But it does look like, oh, we actually got the Slack message. Okay, so this was a new billing issue, status resolved, summary user wanted to cancel the subscription. Okay, so everything's working, everything's hooked up. That obviously was, there was a few like different pieces we needed to fix together or put together. Obviously we were trying to use a bunch of different keys and things like that. So that was really the entire complexity. Like Cursor handled this pretty well. We obviously don't really need a chat history probably, or we could at least clean that up. I mentioned a few times you want like streaming messages. That's something you could easily do here. So the point is we got this working. You can see even the way it's kind of communicating with the user. And granted, I threw it kind of a curveball here because this is kind of a test chat. So not really throwing it a good conversation here. But we could tweak the OpenAI bot there and make sure that the conversations are much more naturally flowing. And if things get weird, we kind of provide exit scenarios. But yeah, that's it, guys. I mean, we built kind of a really basic version of what like an intercom looks like, where you can have these customer support chats and go view the old ones. And we even built a pretty cool little Slack integration here. that can actually triage the issues and send you updates. So this is kind of like what a customer support agent would look like. There's obviously a ton you would want to build on top of it, right? Like maybe this includes a link to some internal tool that you use to help resolve particular issues. Let's actually just do one more just to say, do a little bit more of kind of a real world thing. And let's just say, hey, it would be cool if your customer support bot could stream messages. Okay, so we'll send that off and see if the AI is able to handle a send to our feature requests channel here. I suspect it will be. So it looks like we just got that. I don't know if you guys could hear the noise or not. I don't know if my audio is turned on. Again, you can see we have to do some things like cleaning up the JSON response back from the model and things like that, which is all stuff we would do in a real world app. But obviously this is just kind of a fun video demo. So you can see now we're getting the feature request stuff. So, I mean, this was all pretty simple to build. Cursor handled the vast majority of it. Again, I just started my app here from my McKay's app template repo, which you can go check out. I'll make sure that's updated quite a bit more going forward. Because I just barely people started to notice it before I wanted them to. But whatever, it's out in the wild now, I guess. A lot of improvements will come to that with a lot more like prompt files and things like that. So if you thought that was helpful, maybe go try and do this challenge for yourself, because that's the best way to learn.